structural stereoisomers. Then further they are classified. So each and every type of isomerism will study in detail because you have a question from this part, and then you have optical activity of a compound, like whether the compound is optically active or not. You have an experiment by which you can compound. Then based on that, you have plane of symmetry, center of symmetry, and then followed by the molecular representations. Like in three-dimensional space, there are various ways in which you can represent a molecule, right? Like wedge projection, Fisher, Newman projection, and then Sawhorse. Learn how to draw a given molecule in different kinds of projections. Then we have the RS nomenclature, rules pertaining to this, like how you can assign a given molecule as R or S configuration based on the rules. You just have to follow those rules. Then conformational isomerism for the N-butane molecule. And important question from this part would be you are supposed to write about the various conformers for N-butane and then draw the energy level diagram for this various conformers of N-butane. So this is usually repeated question what you can see, and then followed by the reactions, like you have substitution, addition reactions. Again in substitution you have nucleophilic substitution reactions, SN1, SN2, then the stereochemistry, then addition reactions following Markovnikov's addition, anti-Markovnikov's addition. Then you have the detailed mechanism of the reactions. So in exam also you are supposed to mention the detailed mechanism, just not writing only in one equation. Then elimination reactions, then oxidation reactions, addition of Grignard reagent to the carbonyl compounds. Then finally synthesis of drug molecules, like you have aspirin and paracetamol, how these are synthesized. That mechanism also we have to learn. Anyhow, aspirin synthesis is there in the laboratory, but we don't we are not conducting any experiments right now for you. But otherwise, aspirin synthesis is there as a part of your lab. Okay, so these are the things what you would like to learn in this unit 5 stereochemistry. Okay, so before actually going to this stereochemistry and isomers, isomerism, what exactly is a stereochemistry? Stereo means what? Stereoisomerism we say. Basically, this branch of chemistry deals with what?
Structures.
Stereo means what? Stereo. Just I want one word for this stereo. See, suppose if I draw any structure, let us suppose this is your something like this.
Stereo means solid.
Yes. How many dimensions am I using? If I use even if I use a board also, or board or a paper or a book, okay, anywhere if I am drawing means there I have only the two-dimensional. Okay, only in 2 dimensions I can make use of drawing the structure. Okay, but stereo is something what we are talking about, the orientation of the molecule in the space, that is 3-dimensional, that is X, Y and Z. In all the 3 directions, when you are talking about the orientation of a molecule, then that is something called as the stereochemistry. So 2-dimensional is X and Y only, X and Y directions only, but 3-dimensionals orientation of the molecule. Can you hear me, girls?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. No, it's actually showing the bad network quality, so I got it out whether you can hear me or not. Okay, stereo deals with the orientation of a molecule in the space. Okay, anything related to the space or the 3-dimensional would be termed as the stereochemistry. Okay, So that is about the introduction part. Now coming to the isomers. Now what are isomers? What are isomers? Like you have two different compounds. I just simply call them as isomers. What is the basis for them to be called as isomers? Iso means what? In what they are same and in what they are different.
They having same formula, ma'am.
Same what? Same molecular formula. They have same molecular formula.
But
In what way they are different?
different arrangement of atoms in a molecule and different properties.
No, I'm not asking about the stereoisomers. I'm just asking about the isomers. Just simple isomers.
Different in structure, ma'am.
Then we call them as the structural isomers. So isomers are those compounds which have same molecular formulae, but they are having difference in their physical, chemical, or both. Physical properties or chemical properties, or sometimes even both. So these are termed as isomers. Now, what is isomerism then?
The compounds which exhibit isomer property are called is known as isomerism.
Okay. The phenomenon of the compounds showing same molecular formula, okay, but they differ in their physical, chemical, or both. Then this phenomenon would be termed as isomerism. Now, if I have to classify the isomerism, so broadly I can classify this isomerism into two. One is called as the structural isomerism. Structural isomerism. Then the other one is stereoisomerism. Stereoisomerism. Now, how would you define the structural isomerism or the structural isomers? Isomers, always remember that they have same molecular formulae, but why they are called as structural isomers? Because, Arshia, because they are differing in the structural arrangement of the atom. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So structural isomers are structural isomerism is a phenomenon wherein the compounds are having the same molecular formula. Molecular formula will be same anyhow, but they have difference in the structural arrangement of the atoms. Then that type of isomers are called as structural isomers, and the phenomenon is structural isomerism. And here structural isomerism
Ma'am,
chain.
your voice breaking.
Is still the voice is breaking, ma?
No, it's okay, ma'am.
So chain isomers, like further you have the types of structural isomers, chain isomers, then position isomers, then next one functional isomers. Functional isomers. If the okay, I'll just discuss them in the detail. Then how about the stereoisomers? Stereoisomers. Stereoisomers. These are nothing but the isomers or the compounds which have same structural formulae, molecular formulae, but they differ in the spatial arrangement of atoms or the groups. That's how they result in the formation of stereoisomers. That is the three-dimensional structure of a molecule. Okay. Now this can be broadly divided into two classes. One is called as the configurational isomers. Configurational isomers. The next one, conformational isomers. Any idea about them? Configurational, conformational. Configurational isomers are those which are non-superimposable mirror images of each other and are non-interconvertible by rotation around the single bond. Like I was actually talking about the N-butane, no? So N-butane is one such example which actually exhibits the conformational isomerism. That is, by rotation of C2C3 bond, you can get conformational isomers with the rotation of the C2C3 bond. That is not possible in the case of configurational isomers. So these are the stereoisomers which are non-superimposable. Configuration isomers are nothing but non-superimposable mirror images. Like you have your examples like enantiomers, diastereomers. So those can be grouped under the configurational isomers. And these are non-interconvertible. Can you hear me, girls?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Non-interconvertible, like by rotation of the bond, these cannot be converted from one isomer to another isomer. But conformational isomers, these can be converted to one form to the other by rotation of the single bond, CC single bond. Okay, so now coming to the structural isomers. So first we'll start with the chain isomers. Chain isomers. Or chain isomerism. I'll just give you an example for this. I have taken a molecular formulae of C4H10. So for this, what are the possible chain isomerism? What are the possible chain isomers? But before that, first let me make you people understand how these chain isomers can be written. So what are the chain isomers? Chain isomers, these are obtained by difference in the nature of the carbon chain. Okay, for the molecular formula C4H10, okay, what are the possible ways in which I can arrange these carbon atoms? So C4H10, is this a alkane or alkene or alkyne?
Alkane, ma'am.
Alkane. So what is the name of this compound? Alkane with 4 carbons will be called as C4H10, N-butane, right? Okay. So for this molecular formula, I'm going to write the first structure. CH3, CH2, CH2, CH3. Okay, so this is one way of arranging these carbon atoms in a straight chain. So this is actually N. N stands for what? What does N stands for? N is normal butane, okay, where you can see all the carbons are in a straight chain. Is this only one possible arrangement? Or is there any other way by which I can get a different kind of arrangement wherein retaining the C4H10 molecular formula? Can you try for this? Instead of writing all the carbons in a straight chain, I can even put the same molecule in the branches, right? In the form of branch structure. Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
So
ma'am.
how can I write that? How can I write that? CH3, CH,
CH3.
CH3 and CH3. Does this molecule still have the same molecular formula? How many
Yes.
carbons? 1, 2, 3, 4. And how many hydrogens? 9 plus 110. Yes, even this also has same molecular formula, but there is difference in the arrangement of the carbons, right? So this is nothing but one example of your chain isomer of C4H10. So how many chain isomers possible for the molecular formula C4H10? Only 2 or more than 2? Only 2 isomers are possible. Okay. And the second one is called as isobutene. Why this is called as isobutene? Because here you have the iso arrangement. Okay. These are in the branched form. So one of the methyl substituent is in the branching. So therefore this is called as the iso. Yes. Is it clear, girls?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. I'll give you one other molecular formula. You just try it out and we'll just figure out how many chain isomers are possible for this molecular formula. C5H10. Can you see? I have written C5H10. Are you people trying, girls?
Yes, ma'am.
One possible arrangement would be all the carbons in the straight chain. Yes. Then second possibility is
Branch.
branches. Okay. Then furthermore branching will result in the third chain isomer. Chain isomer. So in total, how many you can write for this molecular formula C5H10? 2, 3 or 4, how many?
Two, ma'am.
2, okay. We'll see then. So first one would be your name of this first one.
N-pentane.
Yeah, N-pentane. This is N-pentane. The next one,
Ma'am,
Isopentane.
isopentane.
Ma'am, pentane is C5H12, no, ma'am.
Oh, I gave you C5H10. Sorry. Okay, thank you.
Now three, ma'am. You can write three isomers.
Yeah, isopentane. The third one would be a neopentane.
Neopentane.
In neopentane, you can see this is the kind of arrangement where you have a carbon in the middle and it is surrounded by 4 methyl substituents. This is your neopentane. So for C5H12, the possible chain isomers are 3. Okay. So here, this is about the chain isomerism. Next. Understood? Any doubts are there? If you have done with this,
Yes.
with the positional isomerism. Is it okay?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So second type, positional isomerism. What are the conditions for which this type of isomerism to be shown by the molecules? Like the two isomers, what we call as the positional isomers, in what way they are differing? Like chain isomers are those which differ in the structural arrangement of the carbon chain, right? Like here, in the case of positional isomerism, this type of isomerism arises due to the difference in the position of the substituent. Okay, one example what I'm just writing is C3H7I. Okay, so this is the example for the positional isomers. So how many positional isomers you can write for this?
2, ma'am.
What are they? So this is C3H7, right? Okay. So this is an alkyl group. Yes or no? C3H7 is an alkyl group. This is your propyl group. So this is propyl iodide. Okay. Now, if I can write the first isomer wherein all the carbons are in the straight chain like this, CH3, CH2, then CH2, and here I just attach the iodine to this terminal carbon. Okay, and another positional isomer possible for this same molecular formula would be, I just place the iodine in this middle carbon. Okay, what is the position of iodine in the structure 1 and structure 2? Or just let me give the names of these compounds. Name of this compound, what is the name of the first compound? How do you give the numbering for this? 1, 2, 3, right? Here, second structure 1, 2, 3. Quickly, names of these compounds. What is the name of the first structure? Am I audible, girls?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, name fast. So, very simple. I gave you the numbering also for the carbons. What is the position of iodine here? To which carbon is attached?
1, ma'am.
First carbon.
Therefore, I call this as quickly, girls. Quickly, girls. One iodopropane. What happened, girls? Nobody's answering. And how about the second structure?
2 iodopropane.
Yeah, why it's taking such a long time? Can I call them as the positional isomers?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, here you can see there is difference in the position of the iodine. In the first structure, it is attached to the C1 carbon, second structure C2 carbon. So since these are differing in the position of the substituents to which it is attached, so therefore these isomers are called as the positional isomers. I'll give you another example. Please try out C4H8. Let me see how many of you will come up with the answers. C4H8. I'm giving you a hint also. Only 2 positional isomers are possible. C4H8 is an alkene or alkyne.
Alkene, ma'am.
Alkene. Okay. So alkenes means what does they contain?
Double bond, ma'am.
Double
Double
bond.
bonds.
Okay, double bond. So how many possible structures you can write for C4H8? Now, how these isomers, how am I calling them as positional isomers? Does it have any substituent?
No, ma'am.
No,
but
ma'am.
still I'm calling them as positional isomers. How?
Because of double bond.
Yeah, good, very good. Because of the change in the position of double bond, you can call them as the positional isomers. So names of the compounds. Names of these compounds quickly.
1-butene, ma'am.
Okay. Then next one.
2-butene.
2-butene.
Yeah, 1-butene and 2-butene. Since they are differing in the position of the double bond, so therefore these are termed as the positional isomers. Okay. Then moving to the third type, functional isomers. Or isomerism would be called as functional isomerism. Functional isomerism. So this type of isomerism you can see in the like those compounds which have same molecular formula but they are differing in the functional group, nature of the functional groups. So I'll just take one example. Okay, C2H6, the molecular formula of a compound is C2H6O. C2H6O. Now, whenever you have an oxygen atom in the molecular compound, so what are the possible functional groups with this? If you have oxygen, so you can just think about the which one?
Alcohol and aldehyde, ma'am.
Yeah, it can be an alcohol or it can be what else? Oxygen containing functional group compounds. Organic compounds, quickly.
Carboxylic acid, ma'am.
Acids means 2 oxygens, no ma. Only one oxygen is there here. So
Ketone group.
one is yes, keto. Then aldehydes. Yeah, aldehydes,
Aldehyde.
ketones. Then ethers. Okay, so these are the possible functional groups containing oxygen. Okay, now for this given molecular formula C2H6, can you try it out for writing the functional isomers? This is a very simple compound C2H6O. I think by now you might have written. Any guess? No? What is this?
Alcohol.
Which alcohol?
Ethanol.
Ethyl alcohol or ethanol? Okay, so ethanol. Yeah, ethanol or ethyl alcohol. Now for this, I want a functional isomer. It should also contain one oxygen and it should also retain the same molecular formula C2H6O. So what is the possible isomer for this? Yes. No idea. So, alcohol and ethers, always these two together will be called as the functional isomers. So the name of this compound is dimethyl ether. And this is your ethyl alcohol. Everybody knows about this. So these are the functional isomers. Then I have another molecular formula, that is C3H6O. C3H6O. Write the functional isomers for this. C3H6O. C3H6O. You can write an alcohol and ether. Can you write alcohol and ether?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, write and see. Is it possible? Are we getting functional isomers for this molecular formula as alcohol and ether? Say yes or no? So for C3H6O, if you can write alcohol, then that would be CH3, CH2,
Propanol.
5, 6, 7, 8. So with this, like suppose I'm just only for your satisfaction sake, CH3, CH2, okay, and another carbon should be there because C3 carbons are there. This should be the possible structure. But count the number of hydrogens here. Carbons will be 3, oxygen is 1. Hydrogens 4.
8, ma'am. 7.
Yeah, 8 hydrogens are there. But in the given molecular formula, 8 are not there, right? 8 is not mentioned. So that means there is no possibility of alcohol and ether. Okay. So what else you can think over?
Propanol.
Yes. We also have the possibility of aldehyde and ketones, right? These compounds
Yes,
also
ma'am.
contain oxygen containing compound. So therefore this is CH3, CH2, CHO. So this is aldehyde and ketone would be what? C double bond O CH3. So this is aldehyde, propanaldehyde. This is acetone. Yes or no? Is the molecular formula
Yes,
satisfied?
ma'am.
Yeah. Is the molecular formula satisfied? Okay. So this is C3H6O. Then next, coming to the configuration isomers. Okay. So all these are the examples of the structural isomers. Any doubts here till here? Yeah, next one would be your configurational isomers. So these are the few examples of structural isomers. Now coming to the stereoisomers. Under stereo, I told you in the beginning there are two types. One is the configurational isomers, other one is the conformational isomers. So first we'll see what are configurational isomers. I'll just draw the structures here. What is this? What am I drawing in red lines? What does that indicate?
Mirror, ma'am.
What is it? Vatsalya?
Ma'am, we are like representing a mirror, ma'am. It's
Yeah,
mirror image.
yeah, very good. Is it a mirror image?
Yes, ma'am.
Are they superimposable or non-superimposable?
Superimposable.
Non-superimposable.
See, if I just take this molecule, put it in front of a mirror, okay, I can get this molecule. Okay, so that is L-lactic acid and D-lactic acid. These are not super. These are mirror images. But when I come to the superimposability, just I'll take D structure and keep it on the L structure. Okay. So in the D structure, OH is the right side or left side? Left side or right side, OH? It is on the left side. Okay. Whereas in the L-lactic acid, you have the OH on the right side. If I just lift this one, okay, if I just lift this and put it on this, will you get a superimposable or non-superimposable mirror image?
Non-superimposable, ma'am.
Yeah, very good. So, no doubt these are the mirror images, but these are non-superimposable mirror images. Non-superimposable mirror images. So, you have a term for this. What are these isomers called? Non-superimposable mirror images are nothing but your enantiomers. Enantiomers. Okay. So this is one type of the configuration isomers. And I'll draw another structure. Can you guess what is the name of this compound? Name of this compound?
Tartaric acid, ma'am.
Very good. Tartaric acid. Okay, this is structure 1. Structure 2. And I'm also drawing structure 3 and 4. Okay. So we have 1, 2, 3, and 4. So this is your tartaric acid. Second structure is D-tartaric acid. Third and fourth would be your mesotartaric acid. Okay. Now here, I just want you people to understand the relation between 1, 2, okay, 3, 4, and 1, 3, 2, and 4. Yeah, tell me 1 and 2. What name do you give for them? Structure 1 and 2. So I have taken the structure 1 and kept in front of a mirror. I'm getting a mirror image. Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, now lift this structure 2 and put it on structure 1. Are they superimposable or non-superimposable?
Non-superimposable.
Yeah, non-superimposable mirror images. So what do you call them? Non-superimposable mirror images. What do you call them 1 and 2 as? Enantiomer.
Enantiomer.
Very good. Enantiomer. Okay. Now compare structure 3 and 4. Are the mirror images?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, can you superimpose one over the other?
No, ma'am.
No. So therefore, these can also be placed under the enantiomers category, right? So we can call that enantiomers. Fine. Then you just tell me how 1 and 3 are related. 1 and 3. Are the mirror images?
No, ma'am.
No.
No, ma'am.
Are they superimposable? Are they
No,
superimposable 1 and no? So therefore, such such isomers, non-superimposable, non-mirror images. So those are termed as diastereomers. So called as diastereomers. So these are another type of your configuration isomers. So diastereomers are what? Non-superimposable and non-mirror images. This you have to remember, girls. Non-superimposable and non-mirror images. And similarly, tell me the relation between the structure 2 and structure 4. Structure 2 and structure 4.
Diastereomers.
Even these are
Diastereomers.
You remember something about the cis and trans geometrical isomers?
Yes.
Even those are nothing but your diastereomers. Cis and trans also comes under the category of diastereomers. Shall I go to the next page?
Yes, ma'am.
Anyhow, I have started with diastereomers. Let me complete the geometrical isomerism also. Routine. How it can be arranged? Like here, this can be arranged as so the first one is called as a cis isomer. Second one is called as a trans 2-butene. Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
So how am I saying the first structure as cis? Structure one, how am I, on what basis I'm calling this as cis and the second one as trans?
Same groups are on the same side, ma'am.
Okay. So if you just consider this C double bond C, so hydrogens of these two carbons are on the same side. Okay. So therefore, this would be resulting in the cis isomer. If they are oppositely placed, like in the second structure, CH3 of one carbon is oppositely placed to the CH2 of the second carbon. Similarly, hydrogens also. So therefore, this would result in the trans structure. So this isomerism is again a spatial orientation of the group associated with the double bond and which restricts the rotation around the double bond. So double bond you cannot rotate. So therefore, this would result in the formation of only cis and trans isomers. Okay. So therefore, these are called as geometrical isomers, and this is a type of diastereomers. These are nothing but cis and trans are again one type of diastereomers. Now another example. Again, these are the cis and trans forms, but names of these structures. Any idea? Yes.
Malic acid, fumaric acid.
Very good. Malic acid and fumaric acid. Malic acid is your cis form, and trans form is your fumaric acid. Now, next coming to the conformational isomers. So how are these conformational isomers obtained? These are obtained by the rotation of C single bond C. So these are your configuration isomers. Still here, we just have finished with the configuration isomers. Then next we have conformational isomers. Conformational isomers. For example, if you take N-butane, N-butane, 4 carbons would be there. 1, 2, 3, 4. So with the rotation of this one, rotation of C to C3 bond, these will result in the formation of the isomers. And you call them as the conformational isomers. Like if you remember, you have eclipsed form. Have heard about these terms? Eclipsed, skew, anti. So these are the ones where you can see eclipsed is where you have the 0-degree angle. Okay. Skew is like you have either 60 degrees or 90 degrees or 180 degrees. And anti is exactly opposite to each other. The similar groups will be opposite to each other, and this would be more stable. Anti would be more stable, and least stability will be assigned to the eclipsed. And skew conformers, these will have stability between eclipsed and the anti. So this will anyhow we'll study in detail about the conformational isomers. Any doubts still here?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Then shall we continue in Wednesday's class then? Because if I start with optical activity, it takes almost a half an hour class. How was today's class? Would you able to write and then